Welcome to the IndieFilmNYC Podcast, where we help filmmakers merge the art and business of independent filmmaking. I'm your host, John Fallon. I want to welcome everyone to episode number 5 of the IndieFilmNYC Podcast. And today I'm talking with Chris Neal, a filmmaker from Ohio who makes short films that are emotionally engaging. One thing that's great about filmmaking podcasts is that through interviews, you get access to exceptional guests with some really great experiences. The access we have to filmmaking information today is unparalleled. That information greatly reduces the learning curve for beginning filmmakers. While the IndieFilmNYC Podcast is proud to be one of those sources which brings that kind of information to you, sometimes I think that it's hard to visualize what a filmmaker at the beginning of their journey looks like. What kind of techniques are they using to get their films made, and how are they taking those first steps? So today I'm talking with a filmmaker who, while not a total beginner, is relatively early on his path of filmmaking. Chris Neal is a filmmaker who is focusing on short film projects, and he is figuring out how to bring out the emotional impact of his work before he makes the foray into larger projects, like feature films. That said, he's a filmmaker who's already had some success. In fact, the first time that he put himself out there professionally with his film Man's Best Friend, he received quite a bit of attention. He was featured on Vimeo as a staff pick, as well as being interviewed by various news outlets, like the Huffington Post. During our conversation, he talked candidly about how sometimes early success isn't always what it's cracked up to be. As it's been said, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. In this interview, Chris was very open about his process, particularly when it comes to the concept of validating a story idea. This is a great concept where one develops a logline or short pitch of an idea or two, and before developing the project further, the filmmaker pitches it to friends, family, and colleagues in order to gauge the viability of whether or not an audience would be interested in actually sitting down to watch the film once it's completed. So with that said, I hope you enjoy the interview and get a lot of value out of my conversation with Chris Neal. First thing I want to know is if you would introduce yourself, let us know who you are and how you got into filmmaking.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Chris Neal. I'm a filmmaker located in the Midwest, in the fine state of Indiana. So, so I got into film about 6 years ago. I was a sophomore in college, and I had been kind of watching some Vimeo stuff online. Just some buddies of mine had been shooting on DSLRs, and that kind of got me hooked in. I started watching staff picks and stumbled upon a guy by the name of Elliot Rausch and was real into his films for a while. And finally, after saving money up, bought a Canon T3i, which was a big purchase for a sophomore in college.
Sure.
But that's kind of where I first got my start. And then I started shooting just random videos of people, events, things. So
when you bought your camera, what did you buy with it? What kind of bells and whistles did you have to start out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I bought the T3i. It was between that and the T2i. I think the biggest difference was the little swivel LCD screen for me. And I think there was like an Amazon Prime deal or something like that. So, but I also bought a Canon 50mm 1.8 lens. Just because there were some guys that were using that. It looked really good. It looked a lot better than the stock lens that came with it. And then just an SD card. And that was pretty much it for a while. I just ran that handheld for, I think, about a year. And then I ended up buying a GlideCam HD 1000 just to stabilize it a little bit. And then eventually I went on to buy a Sigma 30mm lens, which a lot of people were using at the time. And I still use that today, so that was a good little investment. But yeah, nothing too crazy.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, some people think they need a lot of gear, they need all kinds of crazy rigs or whatever to get into it.
Yeah.
And what was the biggest step from the glide, just using it handheld to the glide cam, did that really improve your shooting?
I think so. I mean, just when you're shooting like a 50 millimeter or a 30 millimeter on a Canon DSLR, I have really shaky hands as it is too. So all my footage would come out looking super shaky to the point where it's almost unusable. I would do little fixes in After Effects. After Effects has a warp stabilizer tool, so I would typically apply that effect to all of my clips and then do like 1%, just to get rid of my shakiness. But it wouldn't work all the time. It would leave artifacts. And are you familiar with that?
Plus depending on how much shake, it'll blow up your footage a little bit. So did you have to like compose wider so that you
crop it in,
right,
105% or something like that?
Yeah. No, I've used it plenty. I often get footage from other clients and stuff that they want to shoot it themselves. So I tell them if that's what you want to do, if that's what the budget allows for, then do what you have to do, and we'll work with it. And it's a great tool. It really is. I mean, there was a similar effect on Final Cut, Final Cut 7. But the drawback was, no matter how much of the clip you were using, so if you shot for 5 minutes but were only using 2 seconds, it would analyze the entire file.
Oh.
It took forever, and so you had to like pick the piece you were going to use, re-export that as a self-contained file. It was a whole workaround. And if people don't know, the warp stabilizer for Premiere, which on the newest upgrade has come a long way from I'm like 3 or 4 versions ago. It's insanely helpful for like you said, when you're shooting handheld.
Pretty useful tool for sure.
And so why so you were a sophomore in college, why filmmaking? What drew you to that? Like what spoke to you that was your art form?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I'd always been interested in kind of design elements in photography. I was in a band in high school, kind of like a metal band back in the day. And we would create, I don't know, there was always like in that scene, photography was pretty valued, like kind of taking pictures at shows, even just taking promo pics of bands and stuff like that. So I was always into that. And then the design element too, designing artwork, EP covers, MySpace layouts, all that stuff.
Sure.
Was pretty interesting. So the aesthetics of photography and design, and then music too. I really enjoyed music. So film was just this like conglomerate of all art forms into one, which I really thought was pretty cool. So that's kind of why I wanted to get into it. Was it's kind of design, a little bit of design, a little bit of photography, and a little bit of audio, music. So, but unfortunately, you have to be like really, really good at all 3 of those, or be really good at one and work with people who are better at the others. So,
so design and photography were earlier.
Yeah, that was probably the main pull.
Yeah,
for me, and just watching films, like seeing that these guys who are amateurs and were shooting on these $2,000 cameras, but making these pieces that were super emotional and dug at the human heart, I guess, like really connected with people on an emotional level and on a real raw level. I think that's why I was a fan of guys like Elliot Rausch, just because his films are so raw and honest, and people vibe with that. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. So does he mostly do short films, Elliot Rausch?
Yeah, I think he started doing I think he started as an editor, actually, and then he moved. He kind of did short films on his own, and then I believe he does commercial work now. So, he's still putting out great stuff. So,
I'm assuming that your films are kind of a hobby more or less at this point, and you've got a day job.
Yeah. So I currently work as a marketing associate. 40 hours a week for a company called IWT. So I do paid advertising for them full time, which is super interesting. I've been doing that for about a year. And then on the side, I shoot passion projects and also do a bit of freelance work also. So, I mean, whatever kind of pops up, I'll jump into it. But I like it because it gives me the stability to not have to worry about freelancing all the time and kind of jumping into the commercial world right now. Because the spot where I'm at right now, I can't really jump in and like have a bunch of clients and get paid a stable salary and get benefits and stuff like that. So I really like having this job, and I'm learning a lot from it. And I think I can apply some of the stuff I'm learning from my job currently to kind of the aspects of filmmaking, at least when it comes to marketing and some of that. So I'm trying to learn more. But
what kind of marketing is it?
I mostly do. We do a little bit of everything. So a little bit of copywriting, a little bit of paid advertising, so Facebook ads, Google AdWords, and then just some content creation stuff, running A/B tests, things like that.
And how does that relate? Does it relate directly to what you're doing? Like, are you learning how to deal with bigger clients, or how is it helping you, prepare to maybe do something more in film?
Sure. I think something that's pretty interesting is the idea of like validating ideas, like testing things before you scale up, if that makes sense, and how that kind of applies to filmmaking. I think there's a great book. I think you've read it. We chatted earlier, and Save the Cat.
Sure.
Great screenwriting book, but in that book he talks about kind of creating this minimal, I guess in the tech world, like a minimal viable product.
Okay.
Like don't sit down and write a 70-page script. Like start real small, create the story, create a log line, a 2 to 3 sentence version of your story. And then he says to write a bunch of log lines and then try to validate them. Like go up to people and say, hey, would you watch this film? Like it's a story about a comedian who hides his pain by making jokes or something like that. Like, would you be interested in seeing that film? And you get people's feedback, and you start to see like, oh, people don't want to watch a film about a comedian that's real dark and sad, Or maybe they do.
No, I think they don't, because if you've ever seen Death to Smoochie,
I haven't. No.
That's pretty much what that film is.
There you go. So I guess people don't.
Yeah. So.
And there you go. I just saved 2 months of my time trying to write a script and film something. So, and I think that some people don't like that because it's like you lose the organicness of it. But I don't know. To me, like I want to make things that connect with people, and if I have an idea that I think's awesome, but all my friends and all my family and all my peers think it's stupid.
But that's the thing, right? So you can still make the film, but you're going to make it for $0, not for $20,000, and you're going to make something for yourself.
That's true, and that is true, because I think there is space for that. But, anyways, that's like an example of like how to apply what I'm doing to film now. And on a more practical level, like I've always wanted to do this, like literally make a trailer for a film before actually filming the film. And then maybe do this for like 3 different ideas, and then like run a tiny Facebook ad campaign and just see which one hits the hardest, and then make that film. Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's an idea that's becoming more and more popular. Specifically validating your ideas, but it's really at this point how to go about that, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Obviously, like you said, you create the log line and kind of pass it around to people and see what they think, or you go as far as shooting the trailers, or I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are smarter than me that can come up with ideas on how to validate, but I think it is an important step,
Yeah. And I think the negative side of it, though, like, is I think we see that in Hollywood now of like pre-validated audiences. So it's like every superhero movie, every remake, every you know, Ghostbusters 2, 3, and 4. You know,
Sure.
So,
And what I've heard about that is that a lot of times, you know, in their eyes, the idea's already validated. You know,
Right.
Ghostbusters, for instance, you
right.
know, they knew it worked. You know,
Yeah.
so they're kind of switch it up a little, and you know, by making it female cast, you know, so I certainly think you can go too far.
For sure.
When you know, it's how many cooks are in the kitchen, really.
Mhm.
But as independent filmmakers, we have that luxury that we can determine, you know, who our circle of friends are, you know, trusted
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. I think that's probably some good advice that people don't hear enough, or you know, or maybe they're getting into it and they don't know what idea to go with. You know, maybe they have 3 or 4 ideas, and you know, they're trying to figure out which one to put time. You know, because even if they're not putting money into it, time and energy can kind of be a lot for people.
For sure.
So I want to talk a little bit about your films, especially the one that kind of caught my attention. You know, I was poking around. I believe it's on Facebook. I can't remember now where I first saw your work, but it was the film Chalk. Tell me a little bit about Chalk.
Yeah, for sure.
Or does it go by the full name? How do you like when you talk about it?
Yeah, you can call it Chalk.
Okay.
I would call it Chalk.
Okay.
I actually put the little caveat on there so that people would understand the ending if they didn't.
That's
Maybe
funny.
I should take it out, but
I didn't even notice the tagline when I watched it. I just saw Chalk, and I watched it, and I mean, I got it at the end.
yeah, that's good. That's good to hear.
And,
thanks, John. That's cool.
it plays.
Yeah.
It plays in NYC.
The idea kind of came to me in December. I actually stumbled upon this image. It was this little girl who didn't have any legs, and she had drawn legs on herself with chalk. I was like, oh man, and it was
Wow.
it was an image that you, when you're scrolling through, I think I was on Reddit or something, and I saw it. I was like, dang. So I kind of sat on it for a bit, and it was like, it totally wrecked me, I feel like. Just super impactful, super, lots of tension, like very ironic, very weird. So I saved that image and kind of had it in my like film idea folder. And then started thinking about it more, and I was like, to push the irony, I was like, oh, what about like a dancer? What if that girl was like a dancer?
Sure.
Because that's even more kind of ironic and tense and emotional. And so I started playing with the idea, and there's a lot of really great films and even short beauty pieces on dancing, but a lot of them don't. I was talking to a buddy about this. A lot of them are just beautiful pieces. They don't have like a story or a lot of substance past kind of the dancing aspect. So after thinking about it more, I started to just collect reference images, and through January, I kind of put together like a mood edit with different clips I'd found, and kind of got some of the story laid out of what I wanted, kind of the images I wanted. And then come February, I started kind of making connections and getting everything I needed, getting a dancer, getting help, getting locations, little props like the wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too crazy, but when you're working alone, and you don't have any money, you got to ask in some favors. And
Sure. And how many locations did you use?
How many what?
How many locations did you end up shooting in?
I think it was three or four total.
Okay.
So, nothing. And again, they were all. Every location I had was from a friend.
Sure.
So.
Well, tell me a little bit, if you can pause for a second, on the story of the film. How did you approach? Like, how did you get your free locations? Like, how should people go about that process? In your opinion.
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of go with the mentality of like use what use what you have.
Sure.
So for me, I had kind of the shot ideas that I wanted.
Okay.
So I knew the type of location I wanted. And then from there, I wrote out possible ideas for the locations. So, for example, I needed like a stage for some of the dancer shots. So, being in Indiana, I wrote out kind of the 2 or 3 stages I know of.
Sure.
We have like a theater in town called the Victory Theater. And then I know I'm connected with some church people in town, and they have a stage that looks like a theater stage. So I emailed them as well. But so I started like sending out more emails, as many emails as I could, just trying to meet with people and see if I could use their location. I met with the Victory Theater people, and theirs is like a beautiful kind of old historic theater, but it was going to cost an arm and a leg, and she actually didn't even email me back after we met. She was like, "Oh, you have no budget,"
right.
And yeah. So that was kind of a wash, but my friends at this church were like, "Oh yeah, sure, you can use it whenever you want. Like, come on in, not a problem." So that was like super helpful. And of course, I had to kind of adjust to the scene. I couldn't do these giant curtain shots or beautiful stadium seating things. Right. So I had to shoot more kind of close up and make it a lot more backlit and kind of hide everything. But you got to use what you can get, I guess.
Sure. No, I think that's great. I think a lot of people are looking for a place to shoot, and but I mean, you got to make that list, and ask nicely, and see what can happen. Yeah. Okay. So sorry to pull you off track a little bit. So tell me a little more. So you got your locations. You had you had made mood boards.
Yeah, and kind of I'd written up a treatment for myself just to get my ideas on paper.
Right.
And then I created like a mood edit and kind of sent that off to a few filmmaker friends for feedback, and so that was helpful.
Is that how you validated your idea, by showing them kind of these mood edits? I mean,
yeah, a little bit, because before I even started getting locations, I sent my treatment to them and was like, "Hey, what do you think?" And they were into it. They thought it was cool and offered to help out. And also, kind of the pre-validation for me was the picture on Reddit that I stumbled upon. Like it was lots of upvotes, lots of comments.
Sure.
Like people really connected with that image, and I was like, okay, this is something that people can connect with.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So that, I guess I didn't validate it in the traditional sense, but yeah, kind of reaching out, and then in reaching out and asking for feedback from these other filmmaker guys, they offered to help, and from that I got access to some equipment and lights and hands, and so that was good too.
How many people ended up being on the crew? How many shoot days did you have?
Just 2 shoot days.
Okay, and how many people were on your crew?
Just me and 2 other guys.
Okay.
So super small.
What did you shoot with, like equipment wise?
I shot with a Panasonic GH4, and then used for 90% of the shots used a Sigma 30mm on a speed booster, and then for the other 10% I used my buddy's Canon 14 to 70, I think, something like that.
Any rigs, Steadicam, anything like that?
Again, use my glide cam, my trusty old glide cam HD1000 for a lot of the shots. And then I actually used to work at a production company in town, so he runs a Ronin. So I ended up borrowing that from him. So he was super nice and let me take it out for a few days. And but I didn't shoot too much with that, just a few of the dancing shots, and there's like a wheelchair shot where it's like, so. Yeah, and then I think we had 2 Astros. One of my buddies was helping has 2 LED panels, so use those. And I think that's pretty much it equipment wise.
Yeah, pretty light. I mean, you guys are able to move around pretty nimbly, all that.
For sure.
Because you had to squeeze in 4 locations in 2 days.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's always good to be able to move efficiently. I mean, again, it comes back to, time. Time is money, right? And, being able to have just the gear you need. I think a lot of people want to overshoot. They want to have a lot of, if you don't have a budget, but you want a full truck with all the flags and lights and everything, and some 5Ks. I mean, it starts to get, and then you need extra hands to put those things.
Yeah.
So no, but at the same time, you get such a great look out of your stuff that it's just a testament that you don't need always, like, just need what you need for the job.
Yeah.
And so, what was the response? So you put that out. How did you put that out, and what kind of response did you ever reach out to the person who did the original image?
No, I actually didn't. That's a really good idea, though. Thanks, John.
That's what we do here, film and marketing.
Yeah,
art and marketing, right?
That's where it's at. That's a great idea. I should really do that. I posted on Reddit, just in the filmmaking community there, and kind of when I release stuff, usually I try to get it out there as quick as I can, like kind of do a big push for it. So typically, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, just film groups, and just because it's good to hear what people think. And I don't know. I mean, I spent time on it, and I made it, and it's not like I'm getting paid for it. It's like a passion project, so I would love for people to see it. So yeah, just posting it in Facebook groups, posting on Reddit, reaching out to blogs, saying, hey, I made this with zero budget. I thought you guys would vibe with this. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love your feedback. And just kind of seeing what sticks. Kind of pushing, not like pushing so hard and being spammy or weird, but just putting it out there and trying to get feedback. So
yeah, I find one of the hardest things to get is that direct feedback. I mean, it's easy to click a like or an upvote or one of those things, but somebody actually leaving a comment and giving you direct feedback seems to be kind of the most difficult thing in general for small films. That's why I ask. I mean, did anybody actually leave any comments that were of noteworthy?
I don't know. I mean, surprisingly, like when I'd post it in Facebook groups, typically that's where I got the most feedback, I would say, in terms of comments. And it's funny because, like, especially more niche groups, like GH4 users, like a group like that, because they kind of understand what I'm working with, and they see it, and I don't know. You get the typical questions like, "What lens did you use?" or "What setting?" Which I think are, people call it lame, but I don't know. It's just people trying to get better at what they're doing.
Right. And
then you also get questions like, just more meaningful, or just feedback. Like, hey, that was great. I loved this. I love this. The voiceover was a little blah for me, or whatever. So
that's one thing I meant to ask you. Tell me about the voiceover. So, how'd that come about in conjunction with it?
Yeah, for sure. So, kind of when I found that image, and then after searching around, I found this.
Tell us a little bit what the voiceover is, so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. So the voiceover is it's actually from a commencement speech by J.K. Rowling. It's a great speech. It's about 40 minutes long, I think. It's definitely a lot longer than 3 minutes.
Sure.
So what I did is, I don't know, after listening to it a few times, I kind of cut out kind of the points that I thought communicated my idea, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, you should really check out the speech if you have time. Just something to listen to, like in the car or something. the whole thing is just about imagination and being able to empathize and being able to put yourself in other people's shoes. And if you don't have imagination, you probably can't do that, because you can't imagine yourself in somebody else's shoes, and you can't imagine yourself in somebody else's situation. Which, after listening to it, I was like, oh, this is great. I gotta kind of pick from this. And so that's kind of what I did. I just cut the interview down and kind of formed it and crafted it to match my narrative without ripping away the original context of her speech. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I thought it was touching. And then when I heard, because I think even in the audio you say it's or what is it actually her, or did you re-record it?
No, it's actually her.
Okay.
So
yeah, I remember seeing somewhere that it was from a commencement speech given by her. But no, I mean, I thought it was a great sentiment, and it definitely went, like you said, it told your story, and I didn't feel like, I think you're trying to say it didn't rip the heart out of it.
Yeah.
And it did not.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah, and again, I mean, that was the thing that really drew me to your work, was that, so once I saw that, I clicked through some of your other stuff, and like I mentioned in the email, I said that they're simple stories, but they have really great visuals, and what's really great is that they evoke an emotional response. Like it definitely connects, and I think that's what is one of the hardest things to do as a filmmaker, is to find how you connect with your audience. And I think if you're not totally there yet, then you're definitely getting there. I mean, and I think a really good point is, and I don't know if it was your first film or what, but the Man's Best Friend film, which was a Vimeo staff pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that your first kind of face forward to like putting stuff out there for a bigger audience? Or
yeah, kind of, yeah.
And you got a little bit of success with that. I mean, as far as it becoming a staff pick, and you got quite a few views, so tell me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people's experiences is they make something, and maybe it's not ready, or for whatever reason they put it out there, and it's nothing but crickets, right? So that's really disheartening, I would think. You put something out there and you don't get a response, but tell me about what it was like to put something out there and get a response, and what kind of response you got.
Yeah. Man's Best Friend. I shot that a few years ago. It definitely wasn't my first film, but it was like my first real push for trying to get something out there. So I shot it on actually a GH2. So I just picked up this GH2 Black Friday sale. Feeling good.
Yeah.
Got it all hacked and everything. And wanted to do this story with it was actually my family dog. So, he was like getting sick. And so I shot like all the footage the day before he died, which is really, really sad.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I never crafted something. I never thought I was going to get big or get exposure, because I hadn't had a lot of exposure. So after kind of finishing it up and, polishing it and putting it online, I remember, posting on Facebook and just on my personal page, and it got really good feedback. Like, people connected with it, loved it, shared it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So I decided to start. I was like, oh, maybe I could, send this to other people who would like it. So I and I've always kind of been interested in marketing, and so I put together a list of the top 10 dog blogs, just going to Google, dog lovers, because who would better love that film?
Sure.
It's about a man's best friend. So I kind of made the list, sent emails, hey, I made this short film. I thought you'd like it. Would love to hear your feedback. And so I started getting a lot of responses, and they're like, "Oh, we love this. We're gonna post this. Thank you so much for sending this." And my Vimeo stats started going like up a bit.
So it was on Vimeo initially?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was always on Vimeo,
Okay.
but I hadn't got a staff pick or anything yet. And so after these dog blogs started posting it, my stats started going up, and more people started seeing it. And I assume Vimeo has like some. I know they have people on staff that kind of look for videos that they like.
Sure.
And I assume like they see stats and they're like, "Oh, this has a big spike. What's this video?"
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what happened. So after these dog blogs have been kind of posting around, which there's a lot of dog lovers out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you a dog lover?
I like dogs. I mean, I'm an animal lover in general. I don't have a dog though, so I don't know what. But my friends who have dogs, I mean, it's
Pretty
it's like having a child for a lot of people. You know,
Yeah.
Another child.
Absolutely. So, anyways, yeah, the Vimeo guys picked it up, and I remember getting the email. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I got a staff pick! Like, this is crazy."
So that's how they do it. They email you and let you know.
Yeah. They send you an email with gold. I was 23.
Yeah, sure.
So, and it was like my first. I hadn't really shot in anything that was like that crazy. So, to me, I was like blown away. And then after that, the Huffington Post ended up picking it up too. So that was like even bigger. So I got to chat with the guy from there,
and they did a formal interview with you?
Yeah, I mean, it was just over the phone,
Sure.
pretty quick. But again, when you're, the first film, you're like, this is awesome.
Right.
This is so cool. So, yeah, it was great feedback. And it was really cool to see people connect with something I made and created and shot. And also, it was pretty personal to me, just being my family dog and
Right.
My dad in the film and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, does that kind of answer?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so how did that inform how you proceeded, like, on your next... And what was your next project after that?
Ooh, that's a good question. I can't remember. It's been a while. I'll say this. Like, I think, unfortunately, after you get, like, a Vimeo staff pick, you kind of fall into this... Can I be real? Can I be real, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Real time. You kind of fall into this, like, I got to get another Vimeo staff pick.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No, and that's what I would kind of assume. Like, it's almost like a curse to have too much success early.
Yeah, and I think I fell pretty hard into that. I'm like, what can I make to get another Vimeo staff pick?
Right.
And rather than just like doing what I did with Man's Best Friend, just looking around and filming a story I wanted to film, I was like trying to create content that...
Right. You almost falling into that Hollywood trap of...
Yeah.
Like, let's make another superhero movie because we know people are going to buy it. So
Yes.
Should we go out and get a dog with cancer and then adopt him? That's probably not the best idea, but I mean, I could see how that could be, almost a hindrance, and that's why I brought it up, about getting a staff pick on your first go out, or your first real go out,
Yeah.
And now what? So I think that's great. I mean, I think so you had that kind of phase where you're like, oh God, I gotta make a staff pick video, right?
Yeah.
And then when did you take a step back and say, and what did you say? How did you talk yourself down off the ledge?
Oh, man. I think I jumped off that ledge, man. Well, I think I was working for a production company during that time, too, just editing all day. Just a lot of healthcare videos and really exciting stuff.
Sure.
Paying
the bills.
I guess, it's cool. It was a great job, and
Sure.
I got to learn a lot. But I think I struggled going from being in Premiere all day to opening up Premiere when I got home.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to like make something great, and I feel like I just didn't put out a lot of stuff. I think like the next film I put out was like 6 or 7 months later. And it was just kind of this like copy of, if I'm being honest, the visuals are really cool. It's called like Called Higher, but it's kind of a rip off of another guy's film. So that was pretty lame. And I don't know, I made another film about my sister called Present.
Oh, I saw that this morning. I watched a couple extras. I thought that was really nice. Thanks,
man.
Yeah.
And again, I was making stuff, and I don't think it was bad. I honestly don't think I was like. I think I kind of got over the Vimeo thing. I wasn't like trying to cater to them so hard. Like I wasn't looking for super emotional pieces. But I think that where it affected me most was just finishing projects. Because I think I would put pressure on myself, like, oh, this isn't good enough. Like this, I have to spend 2 more months tweaking this, and I don't like the color. I'm going to go back and recolor it again for the 3rd time. And then I'd put it out, and I'd be disappointed because I spent so much time on it. Versus just making things and getting them out there and moving on to the next project.
Right.
I think that's what I struggled with most, was this staff pick over my head of like, oh, I've got to make amazing things. And I think I didn't get over that until about a year ago. Then I just started, I don't know, I just started shooting for fun again, and even just going on trips with friends, like would shoot and try to edit something together in a weekend, rather than, you know, editing something for 6 months and then finally putting it out and then being disappointed when, because I wasn't growing in my craft doing that. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, like I said, sometimes the success is the worst thing for you, you know, early. But I think those are some good lessons on not just, you know, somebody who's had success, but, you know what's important when you're making a film. And obviously, you know, putting out an idea that you believe in is probably the most important thing, right? You know, like, you know, because and that seems to be, you know, you're not making tentpole films. You're not making, at this point at least, you're not making stuff that's going in front of an audience that's going to have to pay for it. You know, you're not catering to anybody but yourself, really. You know, and you know, you're giving all of us, you know, your voice. You know how you see these things like, you know, the Thunder Sun. I thought that was fun. You know, it had a real fun feel to it. And then there was one, I think you must have taken a trip to New York. It was just called NYC.
Yeah, and, that was just from my time in NYC.
Right, so it just felt like a good flavor of New York. I mean, you know, I don't think, you know, you have to speak to every man, woman, and child with every piece you do.
Sure.
You know.
That's a good thought. I feel like I needed to hear that.
Yeah, no, I hope there's some people out there that hear what, you know, I mean, you know, like I said, what you went through, you know, to get back around to doing what you really want to do. And like I said, I think you're back on the track for sure with pieces like Chalk, you know, like, you know, how, and I'm really interested in that process. I mean, I think, you know, what I heard when you were telling me all that stuff was about how you put together these mood boards. You put a lot of work, from my perspective anyways, you put a lot of work into, not just pre-production, really, but pre-production. You know, coming up with that idea, really, like, you know, testing it out and like you said, validating that idea. I mean, I think those are all really good things. You know, everybody wants to jump right in and make their movie, make their feature, you know, and like you're doing this with a 3-minute short, but I've known people that try to, you know, I'm going to write a script in 2 weeks and start pre-production and film for 10 days, you know, in a month from now. And not that it can't be done, but the quicker you want to go, obviously the more money you're going to need if you want to make things happen and make them happen well.
Yeah.
But so tell me a little bit what's next for you, film wise. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do next?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would love to keep doing what I'm doing and just hone and get better at the 3-minute short, I guess. Because I definitely haven't perfected it. So that's definitely that's kind of the present future, I guess. Like the next 6 months, just continually trying to make things, that don't take a lot of time or a lot of budget. But I would love to get into attempt narrative work. I've tried it before a little bit with a buddy of mine. We did like a short film. It's not on my Vimeo, but it's, I think, on my appearances or something. I got to like DP it for him and just be pretty close in the production of that. But that's like definitely the next level, just narrative, like, and I guess more specifically like narrative with like actors and dialogue. So moving past kind of this like theoretical out there 3-minute short and moving into like a 5-minute, hey, this is a narrative with dialogue. I think that is where I want to go probably in the next year. And then I don't know, I think I would love to eventually direct full time. I know that's kind of a big jump for like the present time, I guess. But if I don't know, I mean, there's always different opportunities that arise and stuff like that. So I think like the commercial world especially is getting even more open to more narrative work as they see the power of storytelling. And I mean, you see all these sick commercials coming out now that are just bringing tears to people's eyes, and that's awesome. I think that's a great thing, and I don't know, maybe I can catch that wave in the future. But do you have any thoughts on that kind of narrative commercial work?
As far as like where it's going? Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, for the indie filmmaker, I think one thing that's great is a lot of commercials, commercials are all about money, right? So they want to do smaller productions and get bigger emotions, right? So, the more you can do with less, equipment-wise, I think is more appealing to them. And, there's, well, I know you did one crowdfunding campaign kind of commercial, right? But it's like a 2-minute commercial or something, right? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of those out there. And yours, if I recall, was for a juice company. And they kind of, in our conversation before, you told me they knew you were a friend of a friend or something, right? That's how you got involved?
Yep.
But I think there's, there's one site, I believe it's called Video Pixie. And a lot of the people that, it's basically they come to the site with a project they want to do, and then they get budgets from a whole bunch of people, and they pick the concept that, you give them a treatment and a budget, and then they pick the person they want to work with. And a lot of it are these type of crowdfunding campaigns for Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So, those people, they haven't made their money yet. They're not the Pfizers or the Kellogg's of the world. So they're trying to put their product out there, but they're kind of doing it in an indie filmmaker sort of way, where they're trying to pull their resources and get their favors, and so that they can sell the next greatest wallet or whatever they're doing. I mean, I saw one for the greatest belt ever invented, and if it holds my pants up, I'm happy, right? I mean, what more do you need from a belt? But apparently, there's one on Kickstarter that I think it starts your car or something. I don't know. But but I think there's some great opportunities for people who want to branch out to, some people are really good at, connecting with their audience that way and telling a story that makes you want to buy their product. I'm certainly more of I feel like I'm more of a narration kind of guy, narrative work. I don't know if I'm into so much, selling products, but it's certainly a different kind of storytelling.
For sure. Yeah. You don't like pushing products, John?
Well, I not that I don't like it. I just don't think I'm very good at it. At least not yet.
I don't. Me neither, man.
We'll see. But no, I think you gave us a lot of great insight. A lot of what you talked about. I think it's really good for people who want to do something like a crowdfunding campaign for their short film. A lot of the things you talk about really apply directly to that sort of thing. Validating your idea, for instance. Putting out those mood boards, getting feedback on not just from other people, but for yourself. How's your story going to look, and I think that just makes you a better director. Because the biggest complaint I hear from people who work with a director is they want to work with a director who knows what they want. Not that they aren't open to suggestions or collaborating, but if nobody knows what to do, the director has to know what to do, right? Mm-hmm. So it seems like all those things will help, especially a younger director, somebody coming up. So I really appreciate like all the stuff that you're saying about how you work. I think your process is really, really good. It creates a nice organic product that at the end of the day, a film really is a product, especially if you're going to try to sell it on the iTunes store or wherever you're trying to push your self-distribution models, or even get a distributor. So tell us, how can we find you if because you do more than shooting, right? You shoot, you edit, you color.
Yeah, shoot, edit, color. Kind of a one-man band stuff, although I'm trying to get away from that. Do some scoring. So, my website is chrisneal.tv. So, and then my Twitter is Chris A. Neal. So that's where you can find my stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I try to put together helpful content too. Just like I have some blog posts on my site just about my color process and my editing process, stuff like that. But some of it's a little old, but hopefully I can get some more stuff up there.
Cool. All right. Well, I really want to thank you for your time today, and I think this was some good stuff. And let us know when you've got another film coming out, and we'll tweet out about it and get some eyeballs on it. Maybe we can get you another little Vimeo spike, and and you could try to live up to the staff pick once again.
That's such a lame standard to try to hit. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be great. Thanks, John.
All right.
No, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You got it, man.
Well, that wraps up my conversation with Chris Neal. I really enjoyed speaking with Chris because one thing that I think is undeniable when you speak with him is that he exudes a passion for what he is doing. As an artist, he seems to really enjoy exploring the human condition and telling stories which are personal yet still relatable to a large number of people. I started this podcast with the intention of helping filmmakers balance the worlds of art and business. And to me, Chris is the type of filmmaker that I believe others can emulate if it's their desire to make filmmaking a sustainable career. He's doing his research, taking his time, and trusting that the process will help his message reach an audience that is engaged with his work and it means something to them personally. I look forward to watching Chris's career develop and catching up with him when he has more work to share with us. The IndieFilmNYC Podcast is available on both iTunes and Stitcher. So if this podcast is interesting or useful to you, then please subscribe. And if you can give us a rating and a review, that would be even better because it will help more people find us and spread the word. And of course, please check out the other blog posts and filmmaking information that's available on our growing website, IndieFilmNYC.com. Thanks for listening.